So this week, the Senate passed a resolution of support for Ukraine. That's a rare bipartisan move there, but far from the mother of all sanctions bill that senators had promised a few weeks back. Joining us today from Houston, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. And Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. It's good to have you here.
Bill, good morning. Good to be with you.
I want to get to a number of topics. Let's start, however, on Ukraine. You just heard my conversation there with Admiral Kirby. Have we done all we can?
Not remotely. And tragically, Europe is on the verge of war because of the weakness, the fecklessness of Joe Biden. I heard a minute ago Admiral Kirby make reference to that the Biden administration, I think he said, quote, "We're still digesting what happened back in August." Joe Biden's surrender and disastrous retreat from Afghanistan is the worst military catastrophe for the United States in decades. And the consequences, at the time, I said, as a result of this incredible weakness, all of our enemies across the globe are looking to Washington. They are taking the measure of the man in the Oval Office. And as a result, as I said back in August, the chances of Russia invading Ukraine have just risen tenfold. The chances of China invading Taiwan have just risen tenfold. We're seeing the first of those two shoes dropping today because of Biden's weakness. But, Bill, it's even worse than that. We had in place bipartisan policies to prevent what is happening right now. Specifically, in 2019, I introduced legislation, targeted sanctions directed at the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Nord Stream 2 is the pipeline that Putin is building from Russia to Germany. The reason he's building the pipeline is that it skips Ukraine. It goes right around Ukraine. Why? Because the real insurance that Ukraine had against invasion is that Putin has to take his energy, his natural gas, in pipelines that go through Ukraine. Once he builds Nord Stream 2, he no longer has to worry about those pipelines. In 2019, I authored sanctions, bipartisan sanctions in Congress. They passed with overwhelming bipartisan majorities. President Trump signed my sanctions legislation into law, and Putin stopped building the pipeline the day President Trump signed those sanctions. That pipeline was dead for over a year until Joe Biden became president, and Putin began building that pipeline again on January 24th, 2021, 4 days after Biden was sworn into office. Why? Because he knew what was going to happen, which was that Joe Biden formally waived sanctions on Russia, on Putin, and gave the green light to build Nord Stream 2. That is why we have over 100,000 troops and Russian tanks on the border of Ukraine preparing to invade. That's why we're on the brink of war in Europe.
But now in 2022, this Congress can't even agree on sanctions. And it is true the president could go ahead with some sanctions as well on his own. But that to the side, the White House has been very aggressive in calling out Russian tactics. And they've done it very publicly by the day, I would argue. Would you concede that's worked so far?
No, it hasn't worked at all. If you look at what the Ukrainians want, they've been very explicit. They've said two things. They've said, number one, if you want to stop a Russian invasion, they've asked the United States explicitly, put sanctions on Nord Stream 2 right now today. Joe Biden could do that this morning. He refuses to do it. And they said, number two, provide lethal military aid. Give us the weapons to defend ourselves. And I finally, last month, I forced a vote in the United States Senate on sanctions on Nord Stream 2. Every single Democrat in the Senate had voted for my sanctions legislation twice previously. But the difference was last time you had a president with an R behind his name. Now you got a president with a D behind his name. When we voted, I won a bipartisan majority, a big bipartisan majority, 55 to 44. But the Democrats filibustered the bill. They demanded 60 votes. Ironically, while at the same time they were calling the filibuster a Jim Crow racist relic from the past, that same day they were filibustering to protect Russia and Putin, and 44 Democrats gave in to political pressure from the Biden White House. They voted in favor of Russia, against sanctions. And explicitly, the president of Poland, the prime minister of Poland, the president of Ukraine, the prime minister of Ukraine, the president of the Ukrainian parliament all explicitly said, if you want to stop this invasion, sanction Nord Stream 2. Joe Biden came to Capitol Hill and personally lobbied Democratic senators to vote against Russian sanctions. That's why we're facing this invasion. I got to say, Bill,
Yes.
Joe Biden becoming president is the best thing that ever happened, tragically, for Vladimir Putin.
Well, if there is an invasion, maybe the sanctions talk comes back to Congress. I want to move to some other topics while I have the time here, and I will do this quickly. On the Durham probe now, this past week, the findings suggest that some sort of internet traffic was exploited to establish this inference and narrative that tied Donald Trump to Russia, either as a candidate or as president. Andy McCarthy, a prominent conservative legal mind, writes this, quote, "Did Durham find something worse than Watergate? Not so far." To the question, is this like the Mueller probe all over again? It is all smoke and no fire?
Well, we have to see what the facts are, but I'll tell you the allegations, what Durham filed in a filing in federal court, is deeply concerning. What Durham alleged as a federal prosecutor, as a special prosecutor, is that a lawyer for the Hillary Clinton campaign conspired with a big tech executive to monitor and spy on Donald Trump, to spy on him at his home, to spy on him at his office, and indeed they were spying on the White House itself. They were spying on a sitting president. That is, you know, you and I both remember when President Trump said, the Democrats are spying on me. And the corporate media collectively laughed at him. They mocked at him. They said, what a ridiculous claim for him to make. Well, if what Special Counsel Durham is alleging is true, that what Donald Trump said was absolutely right. And to the extent Hillary Clinton is complicit with this, her campaign is complicit with it, her lawyers are complicit with it, big tech is complicit with it. If this is true, it's a lot bigger than Watergate. That was a bungled third-rate burglary. It was wrong. People went to jail for Watergate, and people need to go to jail for this if these allegations are true.
Okay. Two more topics, 2 more minutes. On the Supreme Court, the White House said on Friday it still plans to make an announcement on a nominee by the end of this month, which means, based on the calendar, that could be in a matter of days. The president is on record saying he's committed to putting forward an African-American woman. Yet you have firmly disagreed with this idea. At one point you called it offensive. Another point you called it insulting. Does that make you an automatic no on the nominee?
Well, listen, Democrats today believe in racial discrimination. They're committed to it as a political proposition. I think it is wrong to stand up and say, we're going to discriminate. This administration is going to discriminate. What the president said is that only African-American women are eligible for this slot, that 94% of Americans are ineligible. Merrick Garland, whom Barack Obama nominated to the Supreme Court, Merrick Garland was told, sorry, you're the wrong skin color and wrong gender. You're not eligible to be considered. I think our country has such a troubled history on race. We ought to move past discriminating based on race. The way Biden ought to do it is to say, I'm going to look for the best justice, interview a lot of people, and if he happened to nominate a justice who was an African-American woman, great. But you know what? If Fox News put a posting, we're looking for a new host for Fox News Sunday, and we will only hire an African-American woman or an Hispanic man or a Native American woman, that would be illegal. Nobody else can do what Joe Biden did, and there's a reason for that. Racial discrimination is wrong. Now, that being said, when we have a nominee, I'll consider that nominee on the record, and I'm confident the Senate Judiciary Committee, we will have a vigorous process examining that nominee's record. And what I can tell you right now is we're not going to do what the Democrats did with Brett Kavanaugh. We're not going to go into the gutter. We're not going to engage in personal slime and attacks. We're going to focus on the nominee's record, on substance, and what kind of justice she would make. And that's the constitutional responsibility of the Senate.
I hear a window of consideration in that answer, and we'll see where that goes. And tell your dog we're almost done here, okay? Because you're in Texas. And the Texas primary hits in 10 days. It's the first major vote ahead of the midterms, and you've endorsed many candidates in other states. You have not endorsed a candidate for Attorney General in Texas. One of those candidates, a Republican, is under investigation. Will you weigh in before that vote on the 1st of March?
Well, listen, I think there are a lot of good candidates running for Attorney General. I'm friends with a number of candidates. They've been strong supporters of mine. And so that's a race, as you noted, that I'm staying out of. I'm going to trust the voters of Texas to make a determination. I think there are good people running for that race who are strong conservatives, who are people of principle and who I respect.
Okay, so no endorsement today.
That's right. I'm staying out of that race.
All right. Senator, thank you for your time today. In Texas, Ted Cruz, back to your dog. Thank you, sir, for coming on.